Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma. With me, as always, is my co-host Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, before we get started on some Cubs talk, I want to just direct some people to the Northside Territory shop, northsideterritoryshop.com. You can get all sorts of gear there. I believe there are now women's T-necks available. So, did I say T-necks? V-necks. V-neck.
V-necks, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say T-necks? I don't know what a T is. Maybe it's something we can invent. So you Woodside sickos can get out there, represent. We need more promotion. We didn't win the best non-Bears podcast according to our buddy John Greenberg's media survey. We came in second place to a write-in show, a write-in winner show. Unacceptable. We need you Northside sickos out there promoting us, fighting for our names. I will take my crown as best local writer. I think it's probably because I was near the top of the voting list or something. I don't know what this would make that. Assuming I was
That
the only
was
person
very
you could vote for.
smooth way of dropping that in there. That on John Greenberg's survey on The Athletic that you were voted favorite sports writer, and you are my favorite sports writer because you're covering on Saturday at Wrigley. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take Saturday off.
And I get to go to fish on Sunday, so you work.
There you go.
You work Sunday, so we each get a win here. Uh, all right, Patrick. Let's talk some second half storylines here. Cubs come into I guess the break is nearly over here. A really fun All-Star game, by the way. I don't know if you stayed up for that, but that home run off was fun. It's how the All-Star game should be. They shouldn't be fighting for home field advantage of the World Series. They need to make it more fun and like a pure entertainment factor. And Kyle Schwarber with 3 home runs and 3 swings. That was cool. That was fun times. Stayed up with my son to watch that, and it was pretty cool. So bravo to baseball for nailing something right there as far as entertainment value goes.
But we got to pause on that one. That was a classic Cubby occurrence there of like they're 18 over at the break. They have one of the most exciting young players in sports out in center field. You know, the number 1 free agent on the board next year, who has so far enjoyed his time in Chicago. You got a front office that's going to go big at the trade deadline, and people are talking about how the Cubs non-tendered Kyle Schwarber. It's like a classic. And like, what, they couldn't find $8 million to like the COVID-19 budget cuts after 2020. Still being resurfaced because Kyle Schwarber is such an awesome hitter and also just such an all-around great dude, beloved by teammates and someone who just loves the moment. It was I found that to be funny. We were texting about it with our coworkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was fun, and Schwarber's, it's so classic. He, you can on one hand say like, hey, they nailed that evaluation. The guy, was it turns into this leader that steps up in the biggest moments, and never happened with the Cubs fully. But he
was pretty good in the 2016 World Series.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely in the big moments in the postseason, the guy was always there.
Yeah.
And I always loved covering him. Like it felt obvious that if this clicks, this guy is a leader. Like this guy is going to dominate the clubhouse because he's got that confidence, he's got that swagger, and he knows how to talk to people. Fun guy. We'll see what happens in free agency. That would be awesome if they could bring him back. Purely for us, but also I think the fans would love it too. But obviously, Kyle Tucker is a priority. Before we're going to talk a little Kyle Tucker and Pete Crow Armstrong, but the trade deadline is before. Like we talk about the second half, you can't even really talk about the second half in the Cubs without talking about the trade deadline. I don't know what this team will look like on August 1st. I expect it to look better and different. I think what we're going to try and figure out, what we're going to find out, is how much better, how much impact are they going to add, and how much do they spread it around? Like, are they just going to upgrade pitching? I don't think so. I think they're going all over here, and there's a lot of areas where they can upgrade. Uh, and that's not to obviously they're a really good team. They got come into the second half. They come into the second half with the third best record in baseball, second best record in the National League, and not far behind the Dodgers and Tigers. They're a really good team, but they're looking to patch up any holes here so they can make a legitimate October run.
I mean, there is no scenario in which the Cubs do nothing. Like, I feel like every once in a while I'll see that out there on social media. Like, everything in this front office's track record tells you they do stuff at the trade deadline, one way or the other, and they certainly recognize the effort and focus and productivity that this team has exhibited for a substantial amount of time. Being pushed by the Brewers might not be the worst thing here. I think that will force them to really try to maximize this window here. And yeah, I think they look at it like there are several different paths that they can then go down. Like we talked about, I mean, Jed said it on this show here that how these teams perform coming out of the All-Star break matters in terms of what will be presented and how teams will sort of have to pick a lane here uh, pretty soon. But like what we're talking about is like that's their job. Like this is what they have to do. I don't really think it's even that complicated when you have a team that has really hit close to a kind of a best case scenario in the first half. When this team has been built over several years to get to this point, and like we said earlier, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done. I mean, Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd are, all-star or all-star caliber pitchers you can trust to start a playoff game. PCA is one of the best players in the game. Kyle Tucker is that star who's made a lot of other players better. Like now just figure out whatever those pieces are and what is available to you.
This is just a quick aside, but I really liked Shota Imanaga's last start of
Yeah.
the first half. That was good to see. Nice series win after losing that first one to the Yankees, and good to see him missing bats again. I think that is important for the second half for him. He needs to kind of find some of that bat missing in ability again. But yeah, it can't be the Matthew Boyd and Shota Imanaga show only going forward.
Mhm.
I strongly feel like you have to find another starter who you trust can make a playoff start. It
Yeah.
I mean, we know that that's their goal. We know that there's out there looking for that starter. We've found some names that they're pursuing, but really, it could be like they're looking at anyone and everyone. They're trying to be creative. That's something that maybe we haven't spent enough time on. Is Jed both on our show, in when we talk to him in the group sessions, he's mentioned how there's a need to be creative, that they may have to be creative with how they get this done. Uh, so what does that mean? Is that three-way trades? Is that I don't even know. Like, is that just like maybe going to a team that you may not expect to be selling or something like that, or may not a player that you just may have no clue is on the market even that we haven't even identified. When he says that so openly, I do wonder what that could lead to and what we may see over the next few weeks. I also think you have to we'll talk about Craig Counsell in another segment, but he's making it clear that he's starting to go into that mode of like, let's be a little bit more aggressive with the lineup decisions. Matt Shaw sat all weekend, and you have to wonder who's going to be playing third base on August 1st. Or what does the bench look like on August 1st? What sort of moves are they going to make to upgrade that area? I think that like has gone up slowly over the past few weeks. I feel like it went from, okay, maybe they just like look to upgrade the bench or they'll be opportunistic to like, okay, third base is a spot that they may be aggressive. And also a month ago we were probably like, who's going to be available? Well, the Diamondbacks are one of those teams you're talking about that, like, are on the fence, and this next week ish 10 days are going to be really critical for them. And Eugenio Suarez is a fit. The Twins, another team that on the fence. I think Jed has been clear that the AL is kind of bunched up, and I think he thinks these teams may stick around in the race longer. And I think the Twins front office is kind of they're they need to win, otherwise they may be gone. So I think that may be harder, but I do like Willie Castro. But Eugenio Suarez, we've mentioned it. You add that guy you're talking about. Um, I mean, just completely. The lineup is so good, and now you're talking about a middle of the order bat at your one weak spot that can crush lefties. Your other like your real Achilles, the only like team wide Achilles heel, if you want to point to one. This is just like he would be a game changer. Like that's the type of thing where you take a strength and make it like how does an opposing pitcher like navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a no brainer that they're going to add a third baseman or someone who can play third base. And with Suarez's name at the top of that list, Counsell, it was always interesting to kind of hear how he approaches questions. And I believe it was in Minnesota, he was asked about, do you think maybe some of this could be getting in Matt Shaw's head, this idea of that the Cubs are out there looking for upgrades, and Counsell was not having that. He essentially said, well, look at this opportunity he's had. And he sort of, for Counsell, raised his voice and sort of like was really pointed in that observation of like, look, we've given this guy a lot of run. What an opportunity Matt Shaw has had in the big leagues. And so, yes, I think you've seen some of the lineup decisions he's made. We'll see how it goes coming out of the break, but I would be like stunned if they did not add someone who could play third base. And Suarez, like, that helps your pitching staff, right? Like, if he hits you a 3-run homer, like, maybe you don't need like a Cy Young Award winner like pitching that day. Like, that's just kind of how this team has worked thus far in a very complimentary fashion.
Yeah, it also, like, if he gets traded to the Brewers instead,
Yeah.
jeez. Like, the Cubs don't wanna like, first of all, like, he just helps that team so much. Second of all, the Cubs don't wanna face him anymore. He is always a thorn in their side. It's like anytime I feel like I looked these numbers up in Arizona early in the season, but I'm pretty sure the numbers are insane against the Cubs. He's definitely one of those like top 5 of this century Cubs killers. Just destroys them. Patrick, I want to talk about some superstars. Let's take a quick break and we'll talk about the keys to that lineup. Really.
Nothing says summer like long days, clutch plays, and firing off a few bets on the game, all with DraftKings Sportsbook. Never bet on baseball before? It's easy. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride your squad and hope for the best. No spreadsheets, just vibes and dingers. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers get bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Boyden, Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Patrick, Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker, they're superstars. We knew Kyle Tucker was a star. We knew this when they acquired him. There's a reason they gave up so much to get him. I think we both felt like Pete Crow Armstrong can be a really good player, and flash stardom. I don't think we saw this coming this quickly, but he has emerged as a superstar. Now you have two in the lineup, two guys, game changing talents. We've talked so much about them, and we know how important they are. Uh, they have to stay healthy and productive. Those are I mean, that's just kind of the bottom line. You don't need to get too complicated with it. Other than that, like if you lose one of those guys for a month plus, or they go into an extended slump for some reason, that's going to hurt the team in a big way. And that's what keeps you from, feeling like 90 wins is a slam dunk to like, uh-oh, like what happens here with this, with the overall record, and how this team looks, going forward. Because I mean, I think we've seen the difference that a superstar makes. That's what we've seen this year after years of that, being missing post 2021 sell off.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker to me seems sort of slump proof in that he does enough things well and is so disciplined in his approach that he just minimizes or shrinks those down periods to kind of amazing extent. Even Counsell said it the other day, just kind of off the cuff, like, even if it feels like Tucker's having like a quiet game, you look up and he's like 1 for 3 with a walk or something like that. Like he's
Mhm.
hasn't been hitting bombs the way that, Pete has or Saya has, but still just an absurdly productive guy. And I thought, another one of Counsell's sort of, you know, twists on a question, it was like presented, you know, okay, injuries to Shota, Justin Steele, like, how well has this group kind of handled, the adversity? And, he acknowledged they did, but he also said, like, this group has been remarkably healthy. Like, it's just been injuries to the same part of the team. But otherwise, you look at it, I mean, the Cubs have played, I believe, 96 games, and they have 7 position players who've played between 86 and 95 games. And that's Pete, Dansby Swanson, Kyle Tucker all playing 95 games. And, Nico Horner and Seiya Suzuki, players who've, dealt with injuries here and there over the years. I mean, I think Nico has sort of established himself in the last couple of years, in that regard of being able to be productive and durable. But Seiya hasn't had one of those oblique issues. I think Hap might be the only player in that group who went on the injured list, and that was a very minimal stint. And obviously, Michael Busch has solidified himself to the point where he is getting more matchups, hitting higher in the order. But yeah, I mean, this is why the front office has to like think beyond August 1st, or even, what might we need the third week of October, because like this group has been just super healthy and productive, and that doesn't really mean it's going to continue in the second half.
Yeah, it's they had this run of luck in 2016 with health. It's they had the Kyle Schwarber injury, and then everybody stayed healthy the entire season, with no real issues. And you could probably point to a couple bad luck things over the next couple seasons that led to them never really being that powerhouse again. There was, you know, Bryant to dealing with things every other season, felt like after 2017. Do you remember when the thumb was for Javi? Was that September of 19 or 18?
I
Uh,
believe
uh,
that was like Nico coming off his parents' couch, right?
so that
The
was 19. So that was
19,
19.
and that team, I want to say, was still in first place when that happened, or in a playoff position. Then obviously
Yeah.
they just really tailed off in a bad way. But you're right. I mean, things just happen all the
Yeah.
time, and you have to be able to
Yeah.
respond.
Yeah. There's all sorts of things. There's the Rizzo ankle. I remember one year that he didn't miss time, but he was clearly compromised and he just
Mhm.
wasn't himself. And then so many like, bullpen injuries over the years, key bullpen injuries. Pedro Strop running to running to first. Is that 2018? Yeah, 2018. That was geez, that was I think Washington, an extra game in just an insane, just so many insane things. These things happen, and you have to prepare for them. It was I bring this up all the time, and it's just because talking to Theo, you could feel it. He was obsessed with this. He was obsessed with the idea of you don't want to worry about what can go wrong, but you have to prepare for it, right? Don't say like, "Oh no, what could happen? What could happen? Oh no," and like live in fear. But it's more like prepare for the worst. Be ready for it. You don't want to get to that moment and say, "Oh no, what do I do? What have we done? Oh no, we didn't prepare for this." You want to be prepared for these difficult scenarios and feel like, "Okay, that sucks. We can handle it. We're prepared. Look at what we did on July, 31st to make sure that we're ready for this moment." Uh and I think that's part of what this deadline is. You just there's a lot that's going to happen that we just cannot predict, that we don't know is going to happen. I like you don't want it to be Pete or Kyle Tucker. I think that's the big thing. You just don't. It's going to be really tough to feel like this team feels like entering the season. I'm not sure if we felt this way, Patrick. A few months in now, we feel like this team can win a World Series. Make a couple moves, and you're going to feel really good about their chances. Uh, you lose a player like Kyle Tucker, or Pete Crow Armstrong, you're suddenly feeling very differently, and that's a good thing in the sense that they have those types of players now. But you just have to prepare for it, and it just feels like such an obvious but such a big part of the second half. We Those guys have to produce, and they have to be on the field, and they have to be healthy. It was fun to see them at the All-Star game. It's fun to see Pete get this national love, like continue to get the national love, but really see it on the stage like that. So I just think it's going to be a constant topic, and it's something we'll keep watching. And we'll talk about it next segment. But I'm curious to see how Counsell handles rest for these guys, if he feels like it's necessary, or is this break just enough, and it's like, okay, they're baseball players, go play all the time, limited rest, especially for Pete. But maybe that's why what you're talking about, what we've been talking about the past week, of you do need another center fielder there just to feel like competent, like not even for injury, but just for rest, to avoid injury. It helps avoid the injury.
I mean, it's already been sort of explained to us like there could be a move or two that does not immediately make sense on paper. That's about, "Well, where's he going to play? How's this going to fit? How's this going to work?" And it's like, well, stuff is going to happen, and they want to be protected for it. I would also, you know, add Saya towards the end of that group too, of just like, if you
Yeah.
get a guy like Suarez, then you have more coverage at DH, just because I think like, well, Carson Kelly's been awesome. I know he had some time at DH, and Miguel Amaya should be back at some point towards the end of the month, early August. I think it was like, you know, starting to play in rehab games after the All-Star break. But like, I don't know if you really want to be leaning on your other catcher as a DH. And I think if you have someone who can still, deliver that thump in case, say, it does have one of those oblique things, or if he has to play the outfield, or if he plays the outfield and something happens there. I just think all of these pieces fit together really nicely now, and you just got to add kind of more to that group, because the bench. I know I wrote at the beginning of the season, the bench to me looked a lot better, and they got some nice contributions early. I think this bench also looked better because they didn't have to use them that much.
Yeah.
Like, this position player group is just, like you said, they just run them out there over and over and over again. And I think you're probably going to want to find some spots to give them some breaks in the second half.
Yeah, I want to talk about Counsell when we get back, and just what type of impact he may have. I have some questions for you since we were not, I wasn't on the road and you were out there. Let's take a quick break.
Ah, summer. We almost forgot what it feels like to play just because. But even summer needs backup. A little partner in the good kind of chaos. Someone to bring the kung fu kicks. Hiya! To train some dragons. Fly, young dragon rider, fly. The kind of fun that keeps the days going. That turns living rooms into playgrounds. And reminds us what our bodies and our hearts were made for. Play that moves you.
Patrick, Craig Counsell is one of the best second half managers in baseball in recent years. Basically, since I think what I looked up was 2018 on. Don't count 2020 because there's no second half, but he's averaged 12 and a half or so, 12-ish wins above 500 in that span. I have it written down here. 2018 it was 17 games over, 19 it was 13, 21 it was 14, 22 3, just 3 games over 500, and then 2023 15. And then I have it written in the story. I believe he was 8 games over 500 with the Cubs last year in the second half. So post All-Star break, he manages to do some of his best work. He also has the easiest schedule according to strength of schedule in the second half in all of baseball. Add those two, and as we've talked about for almost 30 minutes now, an incredibly talented team. So you add all those things up, things are looking good for this team. But can he keep that up? Can he continue to be like work his magic, push all the right buttons with the bullpen? Like we said, stay healthy. And then I'm curious, like what your read was this past week on the road. He was pretty aggressive. I don't want to say it was Joe Madden pulling Jason Hamill in that Giants series. I don't think it was quite that level of like, let's get to business here. But it did feel pretty aggressive. He's making a lot of changes to the lineup. Shaw sits, Dansby moves down, Hap out of the leadoff spot. That's a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff happening at once.
Yeah, I think Craig is a very patient manager until he's not. And I think you saw some of those things come together. Like I alluded to earlier, he sounded, optimistic about Matt Shaw in general for the long term. I did not really hear like pounding the table, he's going to be our third baseman the rest of the year, because that would be dishonest. I mean, that's just not really how they're operating right now. I think the way he has handled this pitching staff, along with a group of pitching coaches and whatever analysts and front office types, has been pretty remarkable. When Dansby said it the other day, he started rattling off all these, and he was using like the hockey type nicknames, like C-Ray and Palm and Flex. And I was like, wait, what are we going here? But it's like all these sort of like, not no name guys, but like guys who were sort of discarded or overlooked or undervalued, and they've been crushing it. And, I was looking it up, like the Cubs have not yet had a 4-game losing streak, which means like Bears rookies will report to training camp. And I think NBA Summer League will be over before they ever have a 4-game losing streak. And I think you can see it too of how he manages certain series and how, that was a awful loss at Yankee Stadium. Cody Bellinger going off. Would have had 4 home runs if Kyle Tucker hadn't made that leaping catch. But once you kind of flush that one, it's like, all right, well, they have Matthew Boyd and Shota Imanaga lined up for the last 2 games before the All-Star break. And, they took care of business, won a series. I think they've won series at Dodger Stadium and at Yankee Stadium. They've spent more than 100 days in first place. They have winning records against thus far against every other team in their division. Like, he clearly knows what he's doing. He's a good manager because he has good players, but I think just the overall sort of atmosphere around this team uh, is just very Counsell-ish, of just how this group is focused, they're prepared, they're kind of nerdy about baseball, and you see all of those things playing out with kind of the, Craig Counsell era Cubs. Like, this is what they expected when they hired him away from Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. They're very buttoned up with
Yeah,
the way
yeah.
they do things. I think we're seeing like you want to win on the margins, right? You want to do the little things right. We're seeing that a lot this year. Obviously, they play great defense. Their base running. Look, it's an imperfect science with some of this stuff, and you're going to make mistakes. Quinn Berry is going to make mistakes, but that run that was scored by Seiya Suzuki, was that on Sunday? I think it was Sunday.
Can't remember.
Great slide, fun, and, like, all of it was just like, this is good baseball. Like, you're getting a run that maybe you shouldn't have gotten. Dansby Swanson got to second, I believe, to
Mhm.
extend an inning. I don't think they scored that inning, but it's just like they've been doing this since game one. They've been doing at least the first series in the U.S. against Arizona. They've been doing it since then. It's paid off probably more than they expected to already halfway through the season. Um, these are the things that he wanted to instill. Like, he saw some areas that can be tightened up, and he got them tightened up pretty quickly. And he has the talent to do it. You can't take it away from the players, but they're winning on the margins as well. They have a ton of talent. They have a really good team, and then you do the little things right too. You play good defense. You base run. Uh, that's how you go far. That's how you win a lot of games. It was the storyline after the World Series. Why did the Dodgers beat up on the Yankees? Because they can't do these things. They can't do these little things. Um, that's coaching and that's talent. You have to have the right personnel. I was looking at some because I was writing this section about Counsell, I was just kind of looking at his managerial page on Baseball Reference. They're they are just an insanely aggressive team when it comes to the bases. Just relative to league average, their stolen base attempts, their stolen base success rate, all of this stuff near the top of the league, if not the best, like well above average. Just a great team in those areas. That's that should give you optimism going forward about what this team can do because they're not one dimensional. And we've talked about it a lot. Like there's different ways. And I think it's something that Counsell has preached. Yeah, Wrigley Field sucked last year. It's not going to be an excuse this year. We're not worrying about that. We're going to find different ways to win.
Yeah, I do think that's one of Counsell's strengths. Like, look, like he has better players than that last year. That's why he's a better manager. But I do think one of his strengths is not letting things become excuses or not letting things sort of linger. I think the Justin Steele injury is a good example. The sort of like problem solving after these other injuries that popped up, the willingness to, as Jed said, like throw out ideas, be involved in the player acquisition and development space, and then to trust the process that you're a part of. I mean, I think Drew Pomerantz hit the first two hitters he faced, I think, was it Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber? Like, that was like just
Yeah.
kind of throwing him into the fire there
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
okay, like this is why we got the guy. This is the situation. So I am going to use him. And he's shown the patience with Pete Crow Armstrong. I think in talking to Pete and people around him of just like why he's felt so comfortable and why there's a good connection. Like a lot of people go into that, but I do think there's a level of trust between those two there. And looking ahead, I think it'll be fun to see just how we knew how good those Brewers teams were when they chased down the Cubs, but we weren't there every day. It'll be kind of funny to see Counsell, who himself is pretty funny. It's like impossible to describe over a podcast or in an
Yeah.
article, but you see these just little moments that I've been trying to catalog here to just kind of explain to our listeners like what it is about Counsell, but just has this like sneaky sense of humor and just a real easy way around players because you just spent so many years in a clubhouse and you grew up in the game as the son of a Brewers employee. Just great feel and not strictly a numbers nerd guy.
And did I see that his son got drafted by the Diamondbacks? I believe Brady got drafted. That's congrats to him. Congrats to the family there. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you're right. There's this weird it's hard to describe the sense of humor. It's almost like he likes to needle the media a little bit and give it back to us, but in this weird way that you're like, was that a joke? Oh yeah, that was a joke. Okay, that's pretty funny. All right, Patrick, we'll wrap it up there. The Cubs have 3 this weekend against the Boston Red Sox, so we'll have a couple episodes before that. But that's going to be a fun series. I feel like they're playing pretty well right now, and Red Sox Cubs is always a fun matchup. We'll talk a little bit about that in the coming episodes, and maybe have a mailbag episode in there. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We appreciate all of you. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks, everyone. Take